What's this?
Is Sam coming?
Sam is not coming today. Yeah, he had a conflict today. Sam is not coming. Okay. Oh, I have to click. Wait, is it recording? I think it's recording. It's recording and everyone can hear. So, okay, perfect. Everyone. So we're all here, which is very nice, including Bill Harrison. We'll review and approve the minutes from last time. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes from last time? I think they're spectacular. It's a very helpful summary. Because I didn't write them. So it's very helpful. I think that we approved the minutes.
A second.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Jen raised her hand, so, okay, perfect. Yeah, why don't we talk about just some other items then? So some action items from last time. Why don't we start with that? I did send a note to Mark Purple about the smaller projects that we talked about last time, those 4 smaller projects. I have not heard back from him yet. I don't mean that as a criticism. I only sent him the summary earlier this week. So I'm sure I'll hear from Mark at some point about, unless have you heard from Mark, Bill?
I've not, yeah.
So I'll poke him again tomorrow. I'm sure we'll hear from him about, those funds and can they come from the revolving fund and how do we proceed? So I will check in with him again.
Move on to the next item. I assume we're moving on to the next item.
Yeah, were there any other, let's see. Or other action items? I distributed that CPA funding application. Just going to kind of recap some of the things we had from last time. I did send you guys a bunch of email earlier this week, the CPA funding application. I'm waiting to hear from the CPA group about the time when we're going to go in and present it, which I think will be sometime in October. So when I hear more about that, I'll let you know. I sent out Bill's summary of component life expectancy. So you guys, I think, all got that. That was cool.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Yeah.
We're on. Absolutely. Yep. Which
I just had a question on that life expectancy. Do we have anywhere documented where we are at as a course on each of those items? Like, we know we need to do this and there's some T's that have been redone, but like, just so we kind of had a status of knowing, all right, we're 10 years in and in 15 years we'll need to do this, or we're 5 years in and, or something like that. When we need to do the greens, when we need to do the T's, when we need to do different items on that list.
I'm sort of pretty much prepared to present a number of items that I think that the committee could use for presentation of the board of some projects that should be done in the next 3 to 5 years, and most of these items are included in that summary of the life expectancy of certain components of the golf course. I think the majority of those components are beyond my life expectancy. and many of us here that they're just for the size and play and of this facility that you probably would not undertake majority of those in the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. So they're at least 10 years out that you'd ever think of, sure, of changing, the greens.
You have such good history. It would be helpful if you could just go down the list and say, oh, the sand traps were last done in 2006, and that's why we're doing them now. Just
exactly.
Have just throw them on.
Sure.
That and we'll just carry that forward.
Sure. Yeah.
And my question was different but easy, I think. There are 3 climate brackets in that chart. Which one do we fall in?
I believe we were the 3rd one. I just don't have the one to the
that's
far
what
right.
I guess.
Yes.
But it changes the number of
No,
years.
that's right. It does. No, and I think that if I printed it out, I don't think I did. But I think
The
it's the third
cool-
one. Yes,
cool sign.
correct, yeah.
Any other discussion on that life expectancy information? I think that's a great idea, Bill. You could just give us kind of like your general sense.
Sure.
Where we are on some of that, that'd be great. Ira, an SVT follow-up?
So I reached out to the manager of the woman who had been in touch and went on leave of absence. I did that by email.
Okay.
So I have an audit trail on it.
Okay,
It's not critical for us, but eventually we need to be in touch with them. Items we have to deal with, so I'll chase her again.
okay,
And on the other item that I have there, the road sign, I tried to reach Mr. Purple a couple of times. He did contact me by email 2 days ago to say that he has asked for or begun the process of getting the analog road sign on the southbound side of Route 85. Precisely when, I don't know. You say you received.
yeah, so your discussion has kicked off something in town, because then just yesterday, I received an email message from Kevin Miller, who I think is on the Historical Commission, and wanted to have a discussion about where to place the sign. Given, you know, it's within 5 and the cemetery and other signs, and so. He and I have not connected yet, but when I have some more information there, I'll let you guys know.
So when I left him that 2 minutes, I suggested that it's not strongly felt that it be in front of Paul, in front of.
I did put you out
A,
at
because
9:36.
our territory, and B, because that's still within the range of next left turn.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you
yeah,
can try to get out.
yeah.
As opposed to 2 left turns.
Right.
Okay, so when I hear some more from Kevin Miller, and if they have, you know, if he gets to a concrete proposal, I'll let you guys know.
Hold on, I just
There are a bunch of signs on there, so I can see where.
Yeah, I just drove it today just to see how many signs are there, and there are a few signs kind of in that stretch, so,
Yes.
so I'm sure we'll be able to figure that out. Back on the CPA funding, so just one other thing there,
You guys walk.
so there was so I got a follow-up email from Freddie Gillespie, those of you in town might know Freddie, about some outstanding, and I emailed, you and I
Yes.
exchanged an email about this, when the course was redone 5 years ago, there was some certification that the Audubon certification, and I guess the committee and the management company must have agreed that, oh yeah, we're gonna pursue this. And there were some funds, $15,000 or so allocated by the town of Southborough to pursue this. But it hasn't been finished, and Freddie wanted to talk about that as well, and Freddie and I have been missing each other, so we're still trying to connect about, well, what does this actually mean? I think you and I exchanged some.
Yeah, we
email
did,
about this, too.
and John is more, versed in this. There's many things you need to do to become certified as a Audubon Sanctuary golf course. Of course, I belong to Florida, is actually a member, and the compliance is pretty detailed, and it's pretty expensive to follow through with all of their regulations and demands. One being, you need a new maintenance building right away. That wouldn't in any way,
That would not be an Audubon.
that would be,
approved building.
no, that would be a problem. They want equipment wash stations, so recycling and all that water and all that, ground waste. There's just a lot of things to do to, fully comply. Smaller things, we can certainly work on complying, but I will have John write something up and send it to the committee.
All right, so that'd be great.
Status. He was familiar with the discussion with Winter on this whole issue of becoming certified.
Okay,
So let me chime in just a little bit. Freddie attended the very first golf course committee meeting that I attended 2.5 years ago. And pushed on this pretty hard and asked for follow-up. And I spoke with John afterwards, and I got a sense of just how significant an investment and a series of articles this is. I think it's worth our while to look at it again, just like it's worth our while to look at the conservation restrictions, I understand. You know, aspirational goals, but as Bill indicates, it's got a trivial list.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to go after. I've played a few Audubon certified courses, the one that comes. to mind right now is
Yeah.
Which is immunity. Down along 495 down in Bridgewaters.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work to get there. But I think it's a good thing for us and for the town to chase.
I'll be ignorant, but what benefit is it? I'm
Well,
just
I think
asking,
she
I've
was
never, I don't
advocating
know if
for-
I've ever played an Audubon.
I think she was advocating it, because of,
Environmental
the
friendly.
environmental,
Right.
It's
Uh,
environmental.
you know,
But you kind of, go along with what Ira and Bill have said, I remember Lucky talking about it when it first came up with the initial golf course committee. And it's also important, not only the simple, but also what it changes on the course. I remember Bill talking about like the creek on one, like how much wider the growth would, like the amount of that would not be able to be allowed to mow. So it would, I think it would have some significant changes for the people who are playing the course as well.
yes, it would.
And I think it's
Yeah.
important to understand.
I forget what their buffer is.
People, people have enough of an issue getting on, at least a lot of.
Makes the hazard more challenging.
Yeah,
Okay, well, so I think we're clearly all gonna learn more about this. So why don't we see we'll let John.
Yep.
Create a little summary for us. That'd be great. I'll connect with Freddie at some point and hear her discussion and then hear her point of view, and then we'll all talk about it some more. And it's, and then the context of the CPA application, I'm sure we're gonna have to rationalize some of this a little bit, and so that's what we'll do. Okay, I think those were all the follow-up items on all of the action items from last time. Except we haven't, we can talk about the presentation.
Yeah, I'm just in process still on some of these things we discussed at the last meeting. We are working with conservation to prepare the necessary filing. We'll need some kind of town assistance. I think they want to see 2 filings, one for the drainage on the first hole and the cart path. And a second filing separate for the irrigation project, because the irrigation project crosses a number of sensitive areas. And we require their approval on that as well. So far, the maps that we've seen, we're not engineers, so it's hard to put the drainage that we're proposing on number 1 down there on this map, but John's gonna work with somebody else to try and do it to their satisfaction. And then we'll need some assistance from the town where it's a town-owned property, a town project. They would be like the owner of the premises, they would be the one that's applying for the approval, and hopefully we can not have to go full scale and hire an engineer or something else with this, but she thought she could help, and it'd be fairly simple to get the application done. I think it's a notice of intent, but a short form notice of intent or something.
I see,
She
I
is.
see.
Melissa
Okay.
Down.
Melissa, yes.
I see. Okay,
And the other thing that I'm will send out to follow up on is the irrigation project. That the town would desires to have one bid to do the entire project, the installation of the irrigation, as well as the water main tie-in and the pump installation and all the necessary electrical connections with that. And we have a name of a consultant, Jim White Consulting, as one person. He gave a price, a ballpark price, just for this meeting of $5,000 to put together all the necessary documents for the town to submit a bid for the project. So he's gonna give a written thing. I'll send it off to Mark,
yep,
and
yep,
he'll have to decide whether if he needs 3 other competitive bids or.
Yeah.
Or, make sure that, the scope of his work is sufficient for the town requirements in soliciting such a bid.
Did you say John White?
Jim White,
Jim White, and who was he again?
Jim White Consulting,
And we're getting a bid from him, or we're just getting language from him?
it's just
so that we can
just a
then-
proposal from him, so he would draft the specifications. For this project, he's an irrigation consultant. You know, so one person would do it, so it's not just. So the irrigation installer would be probably the general contractor, the principal, and he'd have to sub out. To somebody else who's gonna be the tie-in to the water main and who's gonna install the pump and so on and so forth.
Right,
Question related to that, when does the committee need to notify the town to get it on the agenda for a town meeting?
So the town is aware that this is something that's a candidate. And so it all comes down to the CPA committee at this point, you know, us, you know, getting through their process.
Yeah.
And so we made the application, so we're on their agenda, you know, we're on the list of official projects to be officially considered for the CPA process. And if that goes well, then it would go on the town warrant, and so.
As a CPA fund, so are there kind of 3 scenarios? It goes on for CPA approval, it goes on, or if you don't get CPA, it goes on for a bond, or a kind of mixture of those two?
I think it's all kind of one lump as it's going through this process with Mark Purple in the town. I think the town's preference is, if it's possible, is for this to be CPA funded.
Okay.
And if that proves to be the case, then I think, you know, the article is pretty straightforward, you sort of get through the process. And if the CPA committee decides that it's not appropriate, well, then I think the funding becomes a little more complicated. But we take that next step when we have that information. So I think at this point and I'll follow up with Ben at the CPA committee. I'll send him a note, to say, hey, make sure, you know, you have our information. Anything else you need right now? I'm gonna guess that at some point in October or November, we'll be talking with the CPA committee about our application. But it's just a guess. And, you know, in the process of getting to the warrant being finalized for that town meeting next spring.
I would guess that, because I think Sam said that, like, the select board really gets into the budget planning in November,
Yeah,
and they probably need to have a pretty good idea what's going on with CPA.
yeah, I think that's right.
I think they're all tied together.
I think it's all tied together, and it's also part of, you know, why I think we have good timing for our committee to give an update to the select board in October. When I think it's either gonna be the 10th or the 20th. I think those are the 2 dates. So they haven't yet, the select board hasn't yet said when we'll be presenting, but we will be presenting in October. I think it's either the 10th or the 20th. When that gets confirmed, I'll let you guys know. And then that's just an opportunity to give them, you know, a year ago, this committee gave the select board an update on, hey, this is what's going on. These are the things we want to pursue, as in the presentation I sent you guys. And so now it's an update on that. I think, you know, it's a good opportunity to talk to the select board about, well, this is the progress that's been made on the course, you know. And these are some of the new, you know, next projects to be pursued.
And also like Sam was talking about doing like a 5-year, like, you know, really making sure we understand the fiscal, and that it's not
Yes.
impacting your tax dollars.
Yep, and so that's right. So we'll talk more about the presentation. And so I guess we could, unless there are any other topics, we could just start talking about the presentation a little bit now. Are there any
Unless I
other
get,
topics?
you want me to go out with Willie?
Just one.
Yeah.
Before, we get off the course of the meeting, I wanted to talk about the Franken fence over there, on Lattice Forma. And we haven't talked about actually trying to make that more uniform or updated
Yeah,
or
I
maintained
just saw
properly,
Lily
but it
get,
is,
you know,
it is
okay.
nice. And I don't know if we've already exhausted with the 4 projects that we've identified, if we've exhausted our revolving fund money for this year. But I want to at least get it on the radar that we really should be doing more than just, you know, we rebuilt the 7th tee box, so we replaced some of the fence then, and now we're gonna put some more fence for protection. It's looking very disjointed and very, what I call Frankenstein.
Away we go.
Right, so just that, I just wanted to put that out there as, you know, it's not something that we have to address right this second, but I do want to at least get it talked about on a more regular basis about what's our plan for this, because if it was my house, it wouldn't be. So,
So on that then, so I think that's a great suggestion. So I think maybe we should put it on a list of potential future topics,
sure,
right?
And I
Um,
think that.
and I
was
think that-
very close to the previous discussion that we had about involving the neighborhood as well. Because when we go to address the Franken fence in whatever way, among the reasonable questions to ask is, at the extreme end of expense, we replace the whole darn thing. How high?
Mm,
What kind of construction do we go with that one neighbor's concept of a removable seasonal thing? What about the trees? All of those questions, I think, you might as well get input from the neighbors one time. And I agree with whatever somebody had said, go in with a proposal and play that against the neighbors, fine.
Right.
But I think to do it without neighborhood input
Is not
going
good for
to
the
set us
trees,
back
yeah.
again.
Right, you know, Sam had said that.
Yeah.
He said, don't, it's an open thing, go in with a proposal, you know, here's what we're planning to do and get their input, rather than just kind of a free for all.
Is the plan to still put netting
In the new area.
in the
and-
new area?
I-
We're still
I
planning on
believe
that.
so.
Yes, okay, I just wanted to make sure of that.
Yeah, so that was, I mean, right, we all talked about that last time.
Yeah.
So that was one of the
Okay.
4 proposed shorter term projects. And
Yeah.
so assuming that Mark and the town agreed to that, then I think,
Okay.
it seems like we all agree that should happen, but then I guess in a bigger conversation in the future could be, well, just in general along that road, what gets done? And I think that's a much more complicated topic.
I think so.
It
And
is.
one that we won't get through. Well, in the immediate term.
No, but
But I think that's a good topic to come back to.
I agree with Rosemary, we can't just let it drop.
Yeah, no,
It'll
so
keep on
I-
coming up
I-
and biting us.
That makes a lot of
And I
sense.
did walk into her driveway yesterday to see the garden from the other side, like she recommended. She didn't come out.
So second point, before we get onto the actual presentation in October is, Steve Stivers has been here twice.
Yeah.
Sam Stivers has been here twice,
Yeah.
and he has told us both times, we've got to appeal to the public to make sure that they understand the value of the golf course, that it's not, and so our one opportunity is in October in front of the select board, but what other opportunities are coming up that we're gonna be able to get in front of the public before the town meeting in May-ish? Just,
I wonder if the committee would have the option of doing like they, you know, sometimes they do where they'll have like, you know, an open forum. You know, so if there are warrants going in, you know, for community, you know.
I don't know, I just haven't been in Southborough long enough to know what the cadence is and what the.
Sam would be
opportunities
the
are.
best one to advise on that,
Okay,
really.
all right, I'll
I think
take-
Sam, and I think the select board themselves will, you know, they've been good. They've been supporters of the golf course over the years, and so. I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of feedback they provide in October, you know, when we give an update to them. About other ways of engaging with the public, so, yeah.
And last thing, I don't have a copy of the presentation that was given last year.
Oh, I thought, did I send that out to you guys?
Email.
Yeah, I am checking my email and I don't see it.
Your town email?
Yeah, my town email. So just,
Oh, well, sorry about that. I thought for sure I copied everyone, yeah.
I don't have it either, but that's not critical. I don't think I have a town email.
You do, you just may not know how to log in,
Yeah.
because I keep sending you email.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I don't have a
Jen-
town email yet either.
Now, so I've been using your Gmail account to send you.
Oh, okay, but I didn't see a presentation.
yeah. I didn't.
I could have sworn, well, okay, so, but
Again,
on today's Tuesday, I think I sent it to you guys, but I can send it all again. I'll send it again.
on Tuesday,
Well, it doesn't.
oh, there it is.
I'll-
No, there it is.
Yeah, I thought I sent it to you all on Tuesday, sometime Tuesday morning.
Yep.
I have a little reading to catch up on.
Just
You'll
give a
find-
shit.
No, I don't think my patients would like that.
Okay, are we prepared to talk a little bit about the presentation?
Yes.
So, we have a 10-minute window. It's pretty brief. You know, we can't have mini slides. And so last time we had 7 slides. And I went through them pretty quick.
7 and 10 minutes is a lot.
Yeah, but I'm able to, consolidate and go through pretty quick and get to the primary points. And so I thought it was a really good discussion last time. And I think, the committee appreciated the update. And I think we'll have a really good discussion this time as well. And so, so I'll just hold this up.
This is great.
So, I think like this first slide, right, I would make some edits because we're not reconstituted. I would list who the current members are.
I'd like a picture. It's a group photo.
And I will say Sam was very helpful, in, kind of creating the content. And so I would update this slide. And then, I think this slide, I think I would say this again, right? Just to remind everyone, right? I thought this was a great slide of just as it is. But now this, but I might change this last bullet. Instead of talking about what were the big changes when the course was reconfigured 5 years ago, maybe start talking about recent changes.
How about?
You're gonna
on
be
this
walking.
additional slide,
All-
we're introducing the course as a town asset to the town.
Are all of you?
Apart from select-
Alright, so
some
like-
areas like, largely self-funded.
You're
Largely self-funded?
I don't know, whatever the right.
Completely.
29.
Whatever the accurate way of
It is.
portraying that
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
we should say that.
Wholly
It is,
self-funded.
it is completely self-funded.
Funded
I think, is
without
that right?
taxpayer money.
All right, so I'm gonna just take some, so what I propose here, folks, is that we'll just talk about these slides a little bit then. And then I will go off over the next week and make some edits. I'll send it to you guys. And I think you're allowed to send me comments directly back to me, not have an email discussion, but you can send me comments directly back. And we'll finalize a proposal that way, and I'll include Sam in that process, because again, he provided very good input last time. So I think considering adding language like completely self-funded is interesting. So let me write that down.
Yeah, I mean, you've got your teachers, but you don't talk about expenses. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's really important.
Yeah.
I don't think most people understand the money going back into the all funds that any improvements
You're with.
are paid for from that money.
Now
Yeah.
That's really, really.
Isn't it more than self-funded? It's a moneymaker, right?
You're with me.
it's not, at least I don't think of it as a moneymaker. It's just, it's cash neutral to the town,
Okay.
cash neutral to the town.
But I think on that point, Jen, though, is that improvements are self-funded.
Well, see, but there,
Right.
it's not entirely clear. Yes, right, because the irrigation system
It's not.
Right.
may not be in that category.
Right.
Right, and so, but I understand the point about funding, so let me, I'll ponder how to make a
At
comment.
the very least,
We're
we're stalling.
So there's just one more.
Another expense.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what Sam said, I think, at the last meeting,
Yeah.
that people, that there was so much talk initially that this was gonna be a real money pit for the town.
Right.
So people understand that's the, yeah.
I think I personally think an update of the grounds plate slide is very helpful.
With potentially a notion of the headroom.
And so I thought that was very thank you for answering that question about, so what's the capacity of the club, right? I think that is an interesting notion for the town. It's a very well utilized course. And in some ways, it can't be looked for.
Good.
So,
Just add a line.
yeah, I think that's right. That's why I,
Said if I'm a resident of Esquama, not growing it by 100% is comforting. to me.
right, it's not gonna triple over the next 5 years. It might increase some. So yeah, I thought that, so I would propose, an update of this slide. I think maybe a slide like this, or maybe just a slide, I don't know, maybe a slightly different, revenue slide, I don't know, but I think it was.
Revenue means nothing without expenses, though. I mean,
Yeah.
No, the revenue and the revenue
Yeah.
from the golf course, rounds from the golf course,
Yeah.
and income to the town, I think all of those things are
Yeah,
important.
I know,
That
I think so, yeah.
the
But I-
rounds show up, the revenue shows up,
But
and
I-
the money going to the town, it used to be 20,000, is now 80,000 a year,
But I
so.
I think you make a good point though, because in many ways, this is misleading. For someone who doesn't understand, well, what's really going on here? So maybe there should be a different financial slide. Which is, there could be a component that's revenue, but this is not revenue coming to town. This is revenue largely going to the management company, not being critical,
No, no, I
right?
understand.
Largely going to the management company with a portion. So maybe there's a little more discussion here about finances, so maybe,
And in
maybe.
terms of configuring slideware, maybe divide it into utilization and financials.
Yeah.
Try to limit it to 2 slides. One speaking to use, the other one to whatever the financials is.
And I thought Sam said something about, showing like a 5-year financial plan. Where you should, and I think to show the money coming back to
I
the
don't think
town.
we have it in our head.
I don't think
Bill
we know what
Davis
that
was
is.
going to work that up.
Yeah,
I don't think we got it.
Okay, I thought you guys were gonna try to do something with that for the meetings.
I don't know.
But where you show the money coming in and the things are planned, so you could show, okay, here's what's coming in and, if you know. What's planned over the next 3 to 5 years,
So-
if you could show that,
Exactly.
here's what's planned with the one thing. Kind of unknown for the select board meeting, it will be the funding of the irrigation.
The rounds and revenue is a good illustration for all the naysayers that,
Yes.
we're opposed to the thing, it's gonna be a money pit, whatever.
So it may be, so I'm just brainstorming again, right? Maybe a chart of some sort with some text that is. Showing the funds that have come into the revolving fund over the last 10
Yeah.
years. Show the funds that have come in, whatever the numbers are, 50, 75, 100, or 25, 50, and 75. The funds that have come in and how they've been used.
Sure.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right, because some of the funds have been actually used in the last year on very productive things.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what we should do.
But when you show the future things that are kind of, on the
And
next,
that's next
the next
section.
3 to 5 years. Showing,
Yeah.
like I said, the big question being irrigation,
Yeah.
but if you could show
Yeah.
that.
So I think something like that would be helpful, just to provide context for the select board and the town of, all right, well, these are the funds that are coming in. To the revolving fund, again, it's neutral, right, make it clear, neutral to the town, and how the funds have been used. And then that sort of ties into, so we had a areas of focus slide last time. Well, I would propose to update this, but it kind of shows accomplishments, like, what did the course accomplish over the last year in updates? And then other things that we're working on, right? And so there's some carry on of, because we did some of the near term ones over the last year, right? The course accomplished these over the last year. And then there are still medium and longer term. So, some updates on this slide, I think, to show accomplishments and areas of focus. Something like that.
But knowing that this was previously a matter of some controversy even among the committee. That first line in medium to longer term, continue to monitor neighborhood concerns. Bill Davis was particularly concerned about not signing up for any liability, or giving any hint of a whiff of a notion of liability. I'm concerned, from myself and the neighbors' standpoint, I'm concerned that we give some indication of taking it seriously.
Right.
Taking the notion of keeping as many golf balls as we can on the property here. That we are contemplating further actions like that, whatever that,
I don't think there's much more you can do, and I think
Well,
what we've done has
Proving the
been,
fence.
okay,
Right, that one section,
yes.
But
I think, I'm sorry, I think putting text on here, which is to the effect of, our goal is to keep as many golf balls on the course as possible.
I think that's good.
I think
Because
something
remember,
like
we had a
that
Visit from somebody.
shows intent.
85. That's weird.
Right, it shows intent and yet acknowledges it may not ever be perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's great, so I'll work on some text here, continue to monitor neighbor concerns, keep the balls on the course as much as we can.
And then in the tiniest font possibly, put parenthetically, by the way, we were here before any of the houses.
That's why. that woman who got hit, she was so reasonable, because she said, I bought the house knowing there was a golf course.
Yeah, she was very.
She was very reasonable.
Very.
It was so good that she.
Yeah, I don't think she was part of the group that hired the lawyer.
That could be, but I thought
Just, yeah,
it was
Yeah,
very,
some acknowledgement that we have an issue.
What have we done in the last year to address neighbor concerns? I mean, we're talking.
The tee box.
Move the tee box.
No, this
And
is,
put in the,
Planted
go
some
after the
trees.
trees.
yeah, I mean, that was specifically to address neighbor
the
concerns.
tee box, the new fence, plus the several tee box, and it's something like newly planted trees. I think of the those are,
so the same thing as last, year.
well, those hadn't been done yet.
Oh, those were near term, and so those are now
Now
done.
they're.
Gotcha.
Some were done,
Yeah,
but I don't know that you're ever necessarily done. I don't think you
No.
can ever say you're actually done, so you just continue to monitor. Yeah. Other kinds of messages, just in general, you think that, because I think then one more closing slide, which is, just tell them what you told them, right? At least I like that style. You tell them again that, look, it's a great thing. It's revenue neutral, and come play the course. So other general themes that you guys think we want to try to capture for the select board?
Just to emphasize that point again, we probably should do something about a 5-year look at.
Yeah.
Some notion of looking ahead, and it doesn't have to say 5 years, it doesn't have to represent commitment.
Sort of like this
Isn't that
medium,
what-
longer term.
longer term,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so I think, so let's talk about that. So medium and longer term, so continue to monitor the neighbor courses, the neighbor concerns.
But change the wording, has to be less sounding like we're assuming
Yeah.
liability. Right, so it was more, what did you say instead? You said.
Yeah, I don't think this language assumes any liability.
I don't remember what I said. That's why we.
It says continue to monitor neighbor concerns. That's what it says.
Yeah,
Continue to
and
monitor.
I was looking to strengthen that.
And so then I think maybe making it more clear about.
Oh, no, that was what you. We're gonna.
I think,
We don't know what, I mean, Bill
think
just said there's not
mitigate-
really, what else can you do? So,
I think mitigates a tricky word.
yeah.
Mitigate's a tricky word.
Yeah.
There's your 10
Just
to
reduce
18
it.
right there.
Yeah.
There's your 18 golf course.
So certainly the irrigation is
It's a big item.
a big item. I would put on this slide, the 4 near-term things that we're hoping to
Right.
accomplish, right? Because I think that would show more progress, and then irrigation is the next big one. But let's talk about, let's say there's success, irrigation's installed next year. What would be a next significant thing to give an update to the select board that, hey, this might be happening in 3 years?
So I put together a list of, that could just generally fall into, cart paths, reconstruction or additions. And, T renovation. And I can list it, I can email a list of, or go over it now quickly on what cart paths, need to be done. For those of you that play here, will agree the cart path, from the second green to the third tee
Is horrible.
is horrible, it needs to be done.
That's in a short term thing, right?
Short term, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
No, I thought that the cart path up with the 13 was part of the one.
That's not what you
No,
just said.
Oh, okay.
This is the cart from the 2 green.
Oh, from the
Okay,
air.
so
Oh,
you get
yes,
to the
yeah.
left
yeah,
of the second green,
yeah,
that whole
yeah.
cart path from to the left
Okay.
there of the green, going all the way to the third tee. We want to enlarge the forward tee on the third hole, at the top of the hill, it's a postage stamp that would be, increase the size of that tee. The cart path, third tee.
so let me
Forward
just interrupt you for a
Yeah.
second. So, and that's a great list, and I think certainly saying that medium, longer term, after irrigation,
Mhm.
cart path and reconstruction enhancement, T box reconstruction and enhancement, just
Right.
general categories,
That's it.
right? Not
Right.
specifics, just general
Right.
That's all you
categories.
need, right?
Yeah.
Is there some other general category like that? I mean, we're already talking about doing the bunkers. It seems like we've kind of covered the course, unless
We've
like
really
it's
covered-
like a new maintenance building, which, but I'm
That was
trying to
the
think
last-
of-
That's, yeah, that one should
The
be.
maintenance building would be the next thing, it's just inadequate, there's not enough size in there to store, we have equipment, the rough mowers outside, the fairway mowers outside.
It's an eyesore.
It's an eyesore, so that's something
Was this,
That
was
was the
this,
original list, that was in the list for the original committee, and I know their plan was to have asked them to do it,
is that
like they
right?
did here, yes.
Has there been ever any concrete discussion of replacing the maintenance building, or it was just a wish list? item?
It just the cost of that is just, in my dealing with the school from 2006 for 10 years, it was never discussed because there was more important,
Yeah.
forget the maintenance building, let's redo the bunkers, let's redo the tees, let's do all these other projects, which we did. And more recently, we did all these other projects that are more important as far as I'm concerned for the golf course. But I think
So
we're
certainly-
pretty much done with the golf course.
It strikes me, I'm sorry, it strikes me that as we're talking about trying to pursue projects that are constrained by or accomplishable with the revolving funds.
Yeah.
Right, and so cart path reconstruction, that feels like that fits.
Absolutely.
And
the
T-box reconstruction feels like that fits, so
Yeah.
the course is neutral, cat is neutral to the time. Whereas a maintenance building, maybe it's not so clear that would be the case. That would be,
No, I
that could be a
think-
much more expensive proposition.
I think you, at that point, you'd look at it 3 years from now, you hopefully got CPC funds to do the irrigation project. You're generating $80,000 to $100,000, so we're gonna borrow $300,000 to do a maintenance building, say, and we
Maybe
can
it's
pay it out of
self-funded.
the,
Yeah.
of the
Fair enough.
general fund.
I wonder if you need to, put something about the Audubon certification on that longer term list. Just thinking, if Freddie's at the meeting, it might come up, so.
Yeah. Let me think about that, that's a good suggestion.
And not say you're gonna
Ties,
Yeah, the maintenance, I'm not saying you're gonna do it, but,
You should at least be aware of the requirements for, and then try to work, or at least be.
It's probably worth saying those words just so that they hear Audubon certification, that there's a
Right.
potential for Audubon.
One other thing
Potential.
I recall from Audubon certification, town water is a no, is a no, so there's a lot of implications with it. Town water, my recollection is town water is looked down upon when you say you're using town water to irrigate the golf course. They're more interested in wells, pumping from a pond and being self-sufficient for water, which is another big thing, obviously here. Where we're irrigating the entire course with town water, so it's just another thing.
Is that what the irrigation plan calls for?
Yeah.
Just to use town water for that?
Yeah,
We talked very briefly about making it at least amenable to using a well and pond. But they were viewed as a lot more expensive.
But we have to pay for the town water.
Yeah.
It's a recurring
Yeah,
expense,
yeah.
so at some point.
But I think it comes out of the course's revenue.
no, we pay for the town water, so,
Yeah. It's not an expense to the town.
no,
It's
But
an
in this
expense to
year-
the golf course.
it would be. Prohibitively expensive if you were gonna put a state-of-the-art irrigation system in here and try to irrigate the golf course, wall to wall. The water bill would be over $100,000 or more. We're just putting in a simple irrigation system to automate the operating the irrigation system, so it's automatic. The greens heads, the tee heads, and we're putting irrigation down the middle of the fairway with fairway heads. So the condition of the fairways will be green in a normal season. In a drought conditions, they'll still be green, but not of the quality playing conditions that you can see here. You just can't get that quality from a single row. It's windy out here, it's very windy out here, so you're running that irrigation, the wind's blowing this way, the coverage is poor. Ideally, you want a double row, a triple row, and now they're doing 5-row for irrigations at private clubs. So, but the system that's been designed is we can eventually expand this irrigation system to put in laterals to get better coverage if we eventually get free water from a well and a pond.
You have other questions about that, Rosemary?
Is that even an option for us? Are there wells available around here?
I had a geologist out here.
Yeah.
Probably 10 years ago, and he said it's very likely you could probably get water to the right of the fifth hole. He was looking at all kinds of geological plans. He's looking at the trees that are there. Yes. But to,
Oh, is that?
he said do a test well, and we're throwing numbers like $10,000, but there's no guarantee you're gonna find out from the test well until you decide how deep you go, and then the price gets very expensive as you go down 30 feet, 50 feet, or 100 feet to get the water. And then once you do the test well, and then you're gonna put the well in, and you're gonna put the pump in, and you're gonna put a holding pond, maybe a liner in a holding pond, then you need a big pump station. And the numbers are hundreds of thousands of dollars, to do that. But eventually if it means free water and better playing conditions, it may be an
But if
option.
it is, we're about to spend $500,000, right? That's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
So I'm still just trying to understand where is it the difference between 500,000 and 800,000? Or,
I don't recall exactly, but I think it was a factor of a full
double?
another 500. Yeah. That's, I don't have it.
Seems like we're in a perfect spot. There's a lot of water around.
There is an issue with the MWRAs.
You're gonna run a pipe over to the reservoir.
Right.
It just seems like you could run a pipe over to the reservoir.
Right.
But-
Yeah.
Investigated.
And like,
It could be the holding pond.
permitting and approval processes, and I mean, I bet you that would take.
All right, I don't want to rehash that. I appreciate.
No, it's a good question, but much more complicated.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, well, maybe we're done with the discussion about the slides, potential slides. I guess I'm proposing, and I'll work on some edits, I'll send them around. And then we can,
And this is-
evolve this.
This is the form you took the last time.
Yes, this is the
And it's-
presentation.
and
I
it
took
stayed
last-
within the time limit and everybody.
Yes, yep.
I think that
I
keeps their
wrapped it up in
attention.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think. Frankly, I think the select board appreciated that someone gave them a very brief presentation.
What's I kept on saying bullets, bullets.
Maybe my only other comment on the golf course areas of focus is just completed, just because we have.
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot
to
of-
show what's been accomplished.
Yeah, just to
Yeah.
show progress.
Yeah, I think showing accomplishments would
Yeah.
be, it
Yep.
would be good.
That's all.
Yep, I think that's
Do
great.
we want to add anything about the potential for more rounds? Like that we have a lot more like where we are at capacity? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
so,
I don't know if I'm not sure exactly where it fits, but
there is
are we at,
rounds played. I guess we could
right,
forecast.
but what is the maximum rounds played? Like, we don't know that, like, you could say, okay, are we at the maximum? But we're not even close, so.
Getting close.
So I think I think I sent you an email message where Bill answered the question of, so what's the maximum capacity of rounds?
Right. I didn't know if we want to put some of that data in here, like,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
at whatever, how many rounds?
I think on this slide of golf course rounds played, we could, I don't know, how many the rounds have been, we could have a forecast, right? It's been going up 1% a year. Let's talk about that.
Well, my initial response to you, and I deleted it, was
Yeah.
whatever you want it to be.
Mhm.
You asked them, what can the number of rounds be? And I said, projecting. And initially I said, whatever you want it to be.
Mhm.
And I've given you the illustration, Pine Meadows, a 9-holer in Lexington does 47,000 rounds. But it's in a completely different area. There's significantly more population. There's significantly less competition. So my email to Tony was that we're doing around 24,000 rounds, and I can reasonably expect to get to this limit to about 30,000 rounds here, and that's probably the maximum that you could get given the length of the golf course. And given population and competition around here, maybe you do a little more if Indian Meadows goes out of business and
Well, they keep
and
closing
so-
down the sixth, seventh and eighth
Oh,
hole.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I can say they're underwater most of the time.
And they would,
No, so we benefited a lot this year, as you, which I think most of you are aware anyway. Because Whalen was closed a number of days, Sandy Burr was closed, and Meadows underwater.
Huh.
And we're getting a lot of people from that general population that are playing here because we're open every day. We have carts available every day. It's a pleasure to play other than the wet spot on one. But things could be drastically different next year, and the place is beautiful, you know, tee to green, the place looks spectacular. And next year, all of a sudden, it's dry, this place is brown as can be,
Yeah.
and you could see rounds go from 24 to 21 or 22 next year. That wouldn't surprise me at
That,
all.
by the way, is my best rationale for driving the irrigation.
Yeah,
It's to not be
That's-
as susceptible to driving.
Right.
That's probably a good message to give, but
Actually, that's
when
maximum.
maximum rounds. What did you wanna say, maximum rounds, once we've done irrigation, you know, what?
again, I don't see it going more than 30,000, just with the competition. There's a lot of competition around here for
Yeah.
golf courses. There's a fair amount. There's Westboro, there's Indian Meadows, there's you know, the Whalen, the Sandy Burrs, all these, I just don't see it doing more than 30,000 rounds. And a lot of people don't particularly care for the course because it's somewhat difficult to play. These greens are tiny. And it's somewhat small, and people want to score well when they play golf. They want to go home and they say, I shot 79 today, you know, and it's well. And it's well proven. We've had leads here and a couple of them, one or two left. And it was always 3 or 4 shots higher here than if you were playing a wide open course. You could spray a little ball a little bit. The greens are huge. You could hit the green, you could putt, make a par. Here, you try hitting the 4th green, you got bunkers in front, the greens like this, and
It's a challenge.
It's a real challenge
Right, but
for a
that's
lot
what
of people, and it's
some people like, is
frustrating.
that it is more of a
See, I like it,
But
right?
I think Bill's,
Like that.
the overall point, somewhat scientific, is probably 30,000 is a reasonable number for us to assume as best season. Optimal.
I do,
season,
yeah.
Given our circumstances. And that's fine, we're not here to make money. Bill is, but we're not.
No, you are. We're
Yeah, no,
in this together.
Yeah, I think that's great.
And when it was done, I originally thought, oh, you know, with the rent changes, I said, we'll never get to the 20%. Here it is 1 year worth of the higher kicker number, which is great for the town and great for me as well.
can anybody think, going back to Tony's original question, anybody think of some other thing that deserves a slide that we're missing?
Or just coverage, maybe not a slide, but coverage, right? Some other theme that we want to capture. I think this is a great set of.
It's plenty, and I think it should be crisp.
Yeah, this is not that complicated a set of
It's like,
topics.
what an asset it is to the town, because it's, you know, beautiful, we don't have condos here, you know, and stuff. You know, the usage, the financials, the.
Okay, well, great. I think then, I mean, you guys can all keep thinking about this. If you think of something else, please send me a note. I'll work on some edits. I'll send them out. We can debate them. And we'll have a presentation. So I think that'll be great. I think we're at the end of our. Still one, look here, I don't think we have any public. We do not, so there's no public.
Public, I
I don't think of you as public anymore, so.
It's time for Ira to ask when should we meet next?
Yes, when should we meet next?
You almost have to do that, assuming it's gonna be the earlier date for the select board, right?
Yeah, I don't know that we need another meeting prior to the select board.
Yeah, how about, I don't know, how about the 19th? Just meet in a month?
My puppy's
I-
birthday.
I'll be in Scotland golfing.
Okay, well, I like that.
Suddenly my sympathy for your shifts.
Or the 26th, the 26th, I don't know.
No, I'm gone for almost 3 weeks.
Oh, well, then how
A
about?
lot of golfing.
So how about the 19th?
Yeah, don't wait on me. I'll zoom from,
And I'm gonna try to get a the electronically viable site. I
Oh,
tried this
sure.
time, but
I think
they
this is
were
a great-
gobbled up.
I think this is a great spot to hang out.
This is fine, it's,
I think this
I
works.
love
just fine.
being here.
Yeah, so let's meet here again.
Okay. Easy
Um,
peasy.
okay, any other topics you guys would like to cover?
I just have one comment.
Yes.
Columbus Day weekend, we're doing it again this year. Raising money for ALS, for, on behalf of John Wilson and Brian. So we're, the town's doing some kind of advertising in conjunction with ALS. So I'm not sure if there's any other word that the committee gets out there or the town's doing, if someone can sort of follow up on that,
We could-
promote it.
Myself
Oh,
or.
nice.
Heritage Day.
An article on myself or wonderful
We
for
could do
that.
myself
Okay.
or.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody other than I want to do it. I'll do it if somebody else wants.
If you,
Boy, am I a salesperson.
if you would
Just say
be
it's
inclined to write an article, Ira, that would
Yeah.
be spectacular.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
The women's league's gonna do a scramble on that day.
Oh,
Is
they
there
are.
anything special I need to know about that?
I think they're, I'll see if I have the flyer from last year. So what, I believe we're gonna do it the same way this year, so, we donate $10 of every greens fee to ALS for the 3 days.
And people can
And
donate.
people can
Can
donate
add,
on their own.
yeah.
I'll draft it. I'll send you a draft to make sure I'm not
Okay.
telling any fibs.
That kind of provokes one more thought for the select board. So is there any notion of them changing the greens fees next year?
There is no plan at this point to change the greens fees. I do a survey over the winter, see what other people are charging. And make a decision at that point, which I'm more than happy to run it by you for approval, but.
So we
I'm
could
sort of-
say that we're not anticipating.
I am not anticipating, the idea is to,
Yeah.
for me was to, keep them here, keep them reasonable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And then, once the irrigation is done and they see it, because next year it's could be round as can be, charge raising the rate, round as better. Use the race is saying, then you get the irrigation in,
yeah.
see the investment in the irrigation, then raise them $1,
Yeah.
another $1 the next year
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
All right,
cover the cost of that.
perfect.
So I would say the same.
Okay, I think we're ready to adjourn. If someone would like to move,
I'm.
Thank you.
Let's go to sleep.
all in favor of adjourning? Excellent, that's unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you very much, guys. Nice seeing you all.
Thank you.
Bye, Jen.
Yeah. Bye, Jen. Hope we see you soon.